I have seen your armor this battered in the past, brother chaplain, but never your spirit. It is a poor attempt at levity, and Dant does not match it. I am tired, brother Castellan, he replies. My own body aches, my muscles burn with fatigue, my eyes blur, my head throbs, my heart beats quickly after hours of combat. But this is not what he means. I know my brother that well, at least. How many times has he stepped through moments such as this? How many brothers has he burned in the span of 1,000 years? How much does the weight of those urns bound to him grow with each passing century? With each slaughter he survives. To carry the ashes of his brothers, then those of the brothers who have taken their gene seed. How many generations of dead Black Templars has he borne upon his armor? We will rest soon, I promise. When Tempest is purged, when the fleet returns, when Dorea is retaken. We both know the words to be a lie as I speak them. There is no rest for our kind, no rest but that for my brothers in ashes. He looks at me for a long moment without speaking, then his hand goes to the rosarius around his neck. Slowly, his fingers begin to dance around the pendant, his voice falling away into the murmur of a prayer. I turn myself towards the stairs to dismount the battlements. There is battle still beneath, and I still draw breath. As I set my foot upon the stairs, I feel the cathedrum quiver beneath my boots. I pause for a moment, then the massive structure shakes again. The sound of explosions rocks the distance, followed by a terrible roar. My vox rings alive, a dozen missives flashing upon my helm viewer. Tempest shudders to its foundations. I turn back towards the stairs. As I do, a strong hand grasps my arm. Emeric, Brother Chaplain Dant tells me. I was wrong. I was wrong all those years ago. Marshal Arald saw your strength from the start, and I might have seen it too, had I been willing. You have done well here, whatever comes next. The God Emperor could ask no more from you. I look towards the chaplain for a moment, confused, then turn back, towards the raging battle. Brother Emeric serves as a Castellan of the Black Templars during the era Indomitus. An orphan found within a ruined ecclesiastical temple of an unrecorded world. This child, preserved by near miraculous circumstance, would be inducted into the fold of the Templars to honor the Emperor's divine mercy. Mentored by the 300-year veteran of the chapter, Chaplain Dant, though the spiritual advisor of the chapter would advise his superior, Marshal Arald, not to recruit such a soul into their kindred, the stoic veteran saw within Emeric the potential of a champion. Marshal Arald slain during the First Dorian Crusade, entrusting his sword penitence to Emeric. Though the crusade would end in failure, neophyte Emeric would not allow the chain of Arald's blade to break for 2 further centuries of battle. Reforging its links with each sign of weakness, in time, Emeric would rise to the prestigious rank of Castellan. The shame of disgracing his master's belief that he would lead the First Dorian Crusade to victory, weighing heavily on his shoulders. Embarking to the Shrine World of Tempest to join forces with those embattled during the Second Dorian Crusade. En route to their rendezvous, Emeric's flagship, the Dauntless Honor, would endure the ravages of a warp storm. A Galafield disruption, causing their astropath to become possessed, and Navigator rendered comatose during the voyage. As the Dauntless drifted aimlessly within the void, Templars endured a solar year of war enacted by the Thralls of Khorne. The Paradisal Shrine World, having already survived over 100 wars from both Xenos and heretics alike for 10,000 years. Now the aggressors of the Second Dorian Crusade threatened to turn its edifice of pious nobility into a charnel house of the Blood God. Receiving a distress signal from the Black Templar vessel, Spiteful Blade, the crew of the Dauntless Honor, with no warp drives to utilize, sailed forth to aid their kin, their brethren fending off the forces of chaos for 3 days of fighting. Investigating the Spiteful Blade, finding no survivors within its confines, Castellan Emeric, though imperiled during the skirmish within, would be saved by his former neophyte, Juerton, who on closer inspection bore signs of corruption. The scion of Castellan Culvert's company, explaining his law to be slain, Emeric ordered his men to detonate the ship to deny its misuse by the demons within, the Black Templars overloading the vessel's warp drives before leaving Juerton behind to perish with honor. Emeric's shame, compounded as the first Castellan in his chapter's history to ever sign the death warrant of a ship commanded by a brother of fellow rank. Further adding to his woes would be the providence to which Kelvert's bloodline originated. Regretting his inability to salvage Castellan Kelvert's gene seed from the ship, with the Spiteful Blade's destruction, the genetic legacy of Marshal Arald would be lost forever, having resided within the flesh of Kelvert for over 2 centuries. receiving a message of a flotilla of pilgrims accompanied by Black Templar forces to the Shrine World. Though the transmission was over a week old, the chance to rejoin the Crusade forces could not be denied. Limping for 5 days, using subliminal drives and dozens of blind jumps through the warp, though reaching the Missionaris Galaxia, comprised of 37 Voidcraft, not a single Black Templar vessel was in sight. Docking within the ship, honoring the legacy of Saint Silvestris, the Infinite Word, the pilgrims within regaled Emeric of their ship's namesake's trials on the world of Toth, bringing the word of the Emperor to the native populace. Impaled upon a spike and set upon a funeral pyre, as Saint Silvestris perished, it was said his blood caused serpents to rise from the earth, devouring his flesh, a sign of the purge to follow in his martyrdom by the loyal servants of the God Emperor. Meeting with the blind missionary, Proserpine, though her affliction by slowpox had taken her sight, her faith in the Master of Mankind could not be diminished, her duty to serve the Emperor compelling her to join her flotilla to the Black Templars. Arriving in orbit of Tempest to find its surface despoiled by a warband of the World Eaters Legion, their Chaos Lord, Dravek Soulrender, not content with the blood spilled on Istvan during the Great Heresy, now busied himself sundering the glories of the Shrine World. His sole forfeit to the entity known as the Lady of Thorns, which he had bargained fealty to for the removal of the torment of the Butcher's nails within his skull. As the Black Templars ready for deployment, Dravek sought to create a new bargain to release him of the demon entity's grasp. Outnumbered 10-1, Emeric, though despondent with their chances of success, steeled himself for war. His 40 men, seeing such an overwhelming force to be a test of faith, sent forth by the Emperor to prove their valor. Refusing Emeric's offer to abandon his command should they wish to embark on crusades far from Tempest, not a single Black Templar held ignominy in their heart for their commander, nor his tenuous Castellan, as the dauntless honor hurtled into a crash landing. Intending to invade the Shrine City capital of St. Ophilius, Chaplain Dant, whilst contending with the bulk of Soulrender's forces, would allow Emeric to march for the shrine of St. Shubris, their two-pronged assault benefiting from the World Eater's lack of strategy in deference to slaughter. Emeric infiltrating the crypts of 1,000 martyrs beneath the Basilica. From the halls of vaunted heroes, his strike team emerged within the shrine city of Iglaze, now aware that the shrine of St. Shubris was a lost cause. Ordering his Thunderhawk gunship support to sunder the shrine of Shubris to deny the heretics their foothold. Within the cathedral courtyard, Emeric addressed the surviving Fraternus militia of the defense of Tempest, demanding they fight for the Emperor's glory. The Black Templars, seen as the deliverance of the Master of Mankind, made manifest. As the mortal Auxilia rallied to fight by their side, Dravek Soulrender began his first steps to enact his fell bargain, slaying his lieutenant, Yursif the Faithless. Confronting the Black Templars, and commenting that he remembered witnessing Sigismund sparring within the fighting pits alongside his kindred. Though taunting the Astartes of their ignorance of what the Templars once stood for, the Loyalists repelled the World Eater advance. Rallying their forces within the streets of St. Ophelia, following the Lady of Thorns' intervention, as the demon exerted her will, Emeric ordered his men to fortify the Cathedral of the Martyr. Dravek's bargain complete, thanks to the efforts of the warpsmith, Ralef Thale, the fallen World Eater Tech Marine's creation of a demon engine infused with the entity known as the Carver proved to be his last act of artifice. Turning on Dravek as it assimilated his own form with that of the warpsmith to act as its power source. Within its confines, the Carver would steal the Soulrender's fealty for its own and achieve vengeance against the Lady of Thorns. Castellan Emeric, leading one final defense of the Cathedral against the forces of the World Eaters, with his arm and leg wounded by the rampage of a Hellbrute, the efforts of Champion Hadric ending the slaughter of such a beast as his Thunderhammer reaped a heavy toll. 19 Black Templars remaining of Castellan Emeric's company now diminished to half of its fighting strength. Upon witnessing the arrival of the Carver, each and every one redoubled their efforts to take down the beast. Its limbs the size of an Imperial Knight, providing space for the Templars to climb upon its form to hack and tear ineffectually at its flesh. Deep within its core, Dravek Soulrender cried out for freedom, proving envious of the Templars' unity as warrior brethren. Dismantling the warpsmith's body as hundreds of agonized souls screamed within the Carver's form. Upon witnessing Brother Barnard's death at the hands of the monstrosity, Emeric drove penitence deep within its body to little effect. His company's Thunderhawks attempting to fell the beast. As one fell ablaze from the skies, the other withdrew, battered from the exchange. The fate of St. Ophelius seemingly doomed, as Emeric beheld a sight which would live foremost in his mind henceforth. Chaplain Dant, standing atop the cathedral's battlement, chanting litanies in defiance of the abomination. His declaration, "He is the light that blinds you there in the darkness. He is the hunter that pursues your dreams. You think yourself a nightmare to behold, but even a petty evil such as you feels fear, distracting the demon as the last Thunderhawk readied for one final attack. Crashing into the Carver, immolating its body from the inside out. As the frenzy of battle subsided, Emeric searched for the body of his noble mentor, finding only his Crozius, unblemished from the fires of war. Every fortress of Tempest now sundered by the traitors. Under advisement of missionary Proserpine, Emeric ordered his surviving men to regroup upon the crash site of the Dauntless Honor. Its pedigree is the only holy ground left on the planet, a fitting place to die in battle. Dravek's Soulrender, escaping his fleshy prison, demanding the Cleaver to submit to his will. The foolish Chaos Lord invited the entity to partially possess his body, now acting as the host for the Blood God's champion. Emeric finding upon the Acolyte of the Apothecarian, under the tutelage of Lord Apothecary Alvus, Liesel. Though losing faith in his cause internally, the Castellan ordered the girl to gird herself for battle, stating, "Today we die as brothers and sisters." Mortals and angels fighting side by side as thousands of demons infested the carcass of the Dauntless Honor. As brothers Kesselt, Umta, and Hadric held the northern, eastern, and high decks for as long as possible, each would choose where to die to mark their last stand. The Carver, confronting Proserpine within the Dauntless. Though the brave old woman fired upon the beast, it would fall upon Champion Hadric to valiantly confront the beast, sacrificing his life to save the missionary. Brother Umta fell soon after, as Emeric and Kesselt brawled with the possessed Astartes as best as they were able. With each wound, Soulrender's body mutated, as talons, spikes, and barbs sprouted from its skin. Kesselt grievously wounded by the abomination, as Emeric's legs and arm were shattered beyond repair. In an act of desperation, the Castellan wrapped the chain link of penitence around Dravek's throat, choking the life from his body, long past the demons escaping from his corpse. Rescued by reinforcements, led by another of his former protégés, Marshal Lays. As the Black Templars purged the Dauntless of enemies, Emeric drifted into unconsciousness within the Reclusiam. Emeric's leg and arm replaced with cybernetics, as Kesselt remained comatose within the Marshal's Apothecarian. Though Lays offered the Castellan a Crusade Squad's aid, intending to his slain company, Emeric refused. Atoning for his failures by gathering his fallen brothers and cremating their bodies to be interred with the chapter's honored dead. Missionary Proserpine, having guarded Champion Hadric's Thunderhammer from the traitors, would likewise honor his sacrifice, now returning it to the Templars' care. The Dauntless Honor remaining on Tempest to serve as an outpost for the Black Templars, though it would never sail the stars again, its ignoble end, defied by traitor hands, had been denied. The Shrine of St. Ophelius, in time reclaimed by Loyalist forces as a beacon of hope. His duty not to win the Second Dorian Crusade as its sword, but rather its shield. Though the cost had been high, Emeric had atoned for his past failures and stood as a much scarred but vindicated warrior of the chapter. For Castellan Emeric still fights as a noble son of Rogul Dorn to this day, though one day he knows that he too shall be cremated in similar fashion to his brethren, having fulfilled his duty to the God Emperor of mankind.